Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vidam Shah Madeka Bando Masangin Maguro Manmahadana Manistaraka Madhagya Marananda Namostute. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th Canto, Chapter 8, verse 24, and also verse 25. Verse 24 is as follows. Yadhangana dharshaniya kumara lila vanta brajeta dabala vagrehita puchai vatsaritas tatarubhavanu krishtamano prekshantar ujita greha jarhishu hesantyaha. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Within the house of Nanda Maharaj, the cowherd ladies would enjoy seeing the pastimes of the babies, Rama and Krishna. The babies would catch the ends of the calves' tails, and the calves would drag them here and there. When the ladies saw these pastimes, they certainly stopped their household activities and laughed and enjoyed the incidents. Purport: while crawling in curiosity, Krishna and Balaram would sometimes catch the ends of the tails of calves. The calves, feeling that someone had caught them, would begin to flee here and there, and the babies would hold on very tightly, being afraid of how the calves were moving. The calves, seeing that the babies were holding them tightly, would also become afraid. And the ladies would come to rescue the babies and gladly laugh. This was their enjoyment. Yadhangana dharshaniya kumara lila. So when the ladies of Braja got to see the Kumara Lila of Krishna and Balaram on Turprajit, this Lila was happening inside of Braja, inside the house of Nanda Maharaj. So Tad Abhala. So at that time, these ladies, Prekshanta Ujita Griha Jarishwar Hasantya. These ladies, seeing the pastime, Kumara Lila of Krishna and Balaram, they would have to Ujita Griha, give up their household activities, the various activities for maintaining a house. They will give those up to come see the Lila of Krishna and Balaram, Jahishur Hasantyaha. And in this way, they enjoyed very much. They began laughing. So one incident is mentioned in the third line of the verse. Pagrihita puchai vatsad itas tatarubhavana krishamana. So this incident, one of the incidents that is being mentioned is that when Krishna and Balaram became a little bit older, they developed bodily strength. So developing the bodily strength, sometimes the Krishna and Balaram would go outside and they would grab the tail of a calf. And when they would grab the tail of the calf would become startled. And he would become startled and begin running. Mm-hmm. So as the calf was running here and there, Krishna and Balaram began holding on tightly. And because Krishna and Balaram are holding on tightly, the calves become more afraid. And so they're going here and there. And Krishna and Balaram, they themselves are afraid because they're being dragged here and there. That's why they're holding tightly. So the ladies would come out of the house and see this, and they will begin laughing. And in this way, they enjoyed very much. So this is the enjoyment of a devotee. The enjoyment of a devotee is to see the Kumar Lila, to see the Leelas of the Lord. This is the ultimate desire of the devotee, to see the Lord's Leelas. So during the month of Kartik, which is just upon us, We sing this song, Damodarashtakam prayer. You know this song, Damodarashtakam. So we'll just speak quickly 2 stanzas of this Damodarashtakam verse. You must be knowing it very well by now. This is the 3rd verse. Iti drik swalila bhe ananda kunde swagoshami majantam akyapayantam. So iti drik swalila bhe ananda kunde. Iti drik swalila bhe. Saying these, iti drik means, here in this context, it means saying the pastimes of the Lord's Kumar Lila, actually. Satyavrat Muni, the author of this prayer, he's painting a picture of Krishna's Kumar Lila, and specifically the description of Krishna being bound by Mother Jasoda, the robe, the Dhammabandhana Lila. So iti drik means saying those Leelas, Swalila Bear, his own Leelas, like the Dhamma Bandhana Lila, and the Lila like catching the tail of the cows. That's what we're hearing now. So what happened? Ananda Kunde Swagosham Nimhajanta. His own people, Swaghosha. Swaghosha means his own people, the people of Braja. They became submerged in the Ananda Kunde. The Kunda means like the lake of Ananda. Here in the material world, we are submerged in the lake of suffering. Kapila Muni, in 3rd canto, we read, he mentions that this material world is an ocean of grief, comprised of the tears of crying souls. All the souls in the material world, they are all the time lamenting. Yasma priya apriya viyoga samyoga jam shokagnina sakala yon shudhayaman. The living entities, our hearts are always submerged in the fire of lamentation. Shoka agnina dhayaman. And their hearts are burned in the fire of lamentation. Sakala yonishu, everyone. Man, animal, devata, asura, everyone. Sakala yonishu. And all of them, their hearts are burned by the fire of lamentation. Why? Yasma priya apriya viyoga samyoga jam. Because that which they desire, there is viyoga, separation from that. And that which they don't desire, there is union with that. This is the fun of the material world. That which they have strong desire for, there is separation. And that which they strongly don't desire, there is some yoga, complete union with that. So their heart is completely burning in lamentation. And then on top of that, they try to find a remedy for their suffering, but their remedy for suffering is just self-suffering. The remedy for suffering is its self-suffering. So this is the situation in the material world, is an ocean of unhappiness. But here, seeing the Leela of the Lord, his own people, the residents of Braja, they were submerged in the Ananda Kunde, the lake of bliss. So why Krishna is doing this? So it says here, Akya Payantam. He wants to reveal something to his other devotees. What other devotees? Tadi Yeshita. So Tadi Yeshita Geshu Bhaktairajitatam Puna Prematastam Shata Vrittibande. So he wants to reveal Tadi Yeshita Geshu means the devotees who perform devotion informed by the majesty of God. That is the extent of their devotional inspiration. That God is great and therefore I worship him. So of course, the sense of God's Aishwarya creates a little bit of distance, as is necessary. Just like when you have reverence, this isn't happening anymore, but previously people used to have reverence for like the president. Now this is a very uncommon thing. But previously they used to have, because of the reverence, that creates distance. And the greater the reverence, the greater the distance, in one sense. It doesn't mean hatred, but it just means distance. You can't just walk up to the president and say, yo, what's up, man? And embrace him. No, that is not proper. So their devotees, they're informed by the Lord's majesty. They have love also. This love is called Aishwarya Gyan Yukta Prema. That means the prema that is informed by the awareness of the Lord's Aishwarya. Or Mahima Gyan Yukta Prema. This is the term Rupa Goswami uses. And this type of course, bhakti comes from that type of devotional practice that is informed exclusively by vidhi. Vaidhi Bhakti. Vaidhi Bhakti means a bhakti. Yatra raga anabhaptatva pravrittir upajayate. Shashane naiva shastrasya sa Vaidhi Bhakti uchite. Vaidhi Bhakti is defined as that bhakti whose actions are devoid of any trace of raga, and which means just like a natural predilection towards God and his leelas. And Shashane Naiva Shastrasya, exclusively informed by the vidhis of Shastra. And Shastra is telling, so I'm doing that wish. So Krishna performs these leelas, he wants to announce to these types of devotees, Akya Payanta. He wants to reveal to these type of devotees, Tadiyeshitageshu, that Bhaktir Jitatvam, that he is conquered only by bhakti. Or what type of bhakti? That bhakti where his Aishwarya is, you can say, in the background, so that there can be intimacy relation, right? The mother of the president doesn't care for his president post. She also respects that, but her main relation is as mother, same for the friends and son, the lover. So he is conquered only by this type of love, this love that is informed by intimacy. And he wants to announce this to the bhaktas of this world. He appears in this world to perform these leelas to announce to everyone, but especially those bhaktas, that actually this bhakti informed by vidhi does not conquer me. I am only conquered by this other type of bhakti. Puna prematastam shata pratipande. So my obeisance is with love to this Krishna and to this leela hundreds and hundreds of times. Next verse he says, this Varam Deva Moksham Na Moksha Vadimba Nachanyam Rene Hambare Sharapiha. So here he's saying, this Lord, he is Deva, the Lord, he is the giver of benedictions. But I do not desire moksha. Moksha means liberation from the material energy. Nor moksha avidam, like the pinnacle of liberation. The pinnacle of liberation is Vaikuntha. There are 5 types of liberation. You must have learned from Nectar of Devotion. There are 5 types of liberation. Merging into Brahman, that one is rejected by Vaishnavas. But then there are 4 other types. Sarupya Mukti, having the same form as the Lord. Sharshi, having the same opulence as the Lord. Samipya Mukti, living near in proximity of the Lord. And what's the last one? I'm missing one. Samipya and Salokya, living on the same planet as the Lord. Salokya Mukti. So these are 4 types of Vaishnava Muktis. This is the pinnacle of liberation. So here Satyavrat Muni says, I don't want moksha or the limit of moksha. So these 5 types of liberation rejected by the Ekanta devotees, those who have this exclusive devotion to Krishna. Not chanyam, nor any other boon that can come from doing bhakti. Because by doing bhakti, you can get all sorts of boons. If someone wants to get a husband, do bhakti. What is the problem? Do bhakti. You want money? Also do bhakti. Akama sarva kama va moksha kama udhariti tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purushampara. Whether you have no desires or you have all the desires, sarva kama, you have all desires, or you have the desire for moksha. In all cases, if you are a broad-minded person, udhariti, intelligent person, then tivrena bhakti yogena, you should do pure bhakti to Krishna only. Yajeta purushampara. So if you have any desire, you can do bhakti to fulfill that desire. But here Satyavrat Muni is saying, I don't have desire for moksha or the limit of moksha, nor any other boon that can come from doing bhakti. Although you are the Lord who can fulfill all sorts of desires, I am praying to you, worshiping you for this thing. Idam te vapurnata gopala balam sada me manasya virasnam kemanye. So he's praying for this thing only. What thing? That this form of yours, this Gopala Bhala, this form of you as a child performing this Kumar Leela, I am praying that only sada me manasya virasnam kemanye. I'm praying that this form of yours as Gopal Krishna, Gopala Bhala, may always be aviras, like manifest in my heart. Kimanya, what use is what use are other benedictions? Only this benediction I want, that this form of Gopala will be manifest in my heart constantly. That is my only benediction. So this is where the devotees derive their happiness and darshan the Lord. So one has to, as a practicing devotee, the definition of sadhana means kriti saddha bhagat saddha bhava sa sadhana bhida. The definition of devotee is that of sadhana is that we engage our senses, our body, mind, our speech, kriti sadhya, for attaining a sadhya bhava, bhav bhakti basically. Every sadhaka has to identify what is the purpose of their sadhana. And many devotees, they just do sadhana. I asked one devotee in Braja many years ago, young boy, I was on kirtan party, he would come for kirtan all the time. So I asked him why he's performing kirtan. What is his purpose in doing kirtan and coming all the time? So he said, my purpose is to get purified. And so I said, ugh. That was a response I said, such a low purpose. I said, shoot a little bit higher. So he became a little astonished that I gave a response like that. He said, why do you say yuck like this? Aren't we supposed to desire to get purified? So I said, shoot a little bit higher. Kriti sadhya bhavat sadhya bhava. The purpose of sadhana achieves its, you can say, goal when it attains bhav, bhakti. So we have to, what type of bhav? There's vatsalya bhav, there's sakya bhav, dasya bhav, madhurya bhav. Every devotee has to identify what is their prayojan. Prayojan means the goal of their practice. That goal is like a North Star, the Polaris star. So when travelers, when they would navigate deserts, you can easily get lost, but they will look at the Polaris star, North Star, and then they know, oh, we have to move in this direction. By taking the North Star as the focus point of whatever, the triangulation or whatever. Otherwise, without that North Star, then you'll become lost in the desert. So material world is also compared to desert, like by who is the author of Mukunda Malastrota? Kulashekha. So in Mukunda Malastrota, he also compares material world to desert. So it's very easy to get lost in the vicissitudes of this material world. But if you have your North Star, you'll always be able to triangulate. Okay, now I'm in this position in the material world. There's my North Star. And now I have to move in this direction in order to attain my sadhya. So devotees don't identify their sadhya. Say your Satyabhat Muni has a very clear sadhya. I only desire the darshan of Gopal Krishna. That is it. May that be constantly manifest in my heart. That is where I will find my happiness. Therefore, all the things available in the material world, he becomes nirved. There's a verse like that in Bhagavad Gita. Yadate moha kalila budirya tatarishiti tatogam tansi nirveda. Nirveda means like callous, basically. Nirved, detached. When your intelligence is crossed over the moha kalila, the force of delusion, at that time you become nirved. But will not be nirved. Just what we were telling yesterday in Bhagavad Gita class. Many times we feel that we are detached because we don't have opportunity. Because we don't have opportunity, Bhakti may think, oh, I don't have this desire. And then when opportunity comes, immediately you grab it. Our detachment is like the sour grapes. You know the sour grape story. One fox is there. He wanted to get some fruit, but the fruit was a little bit too high. He couldn't reach it. So he said, these grapes are sour. I don't want them. But as soon as he moves a little bit further and the branch a little bit lower, he can reach those, then immediately he grabs. Because that detachment not based on a clear sadhya and a clear movement towards that. So every devotee has to identify that. So here the Leela is going on, and the residents of Braja, they're deriving all happiness by seeing this pastime of the Kumara Leela going on, like grabbing the tail of the cows. The cows can be startled, running here and there. And Krishna Balaram then getting scared and holding on tightly. And then when they hold on tightly, the cows get more afraid and they're running here and there, and they come out and see the fun and they're just laughing. And this way they are enjoying happiness. What use is any other sort of happiness? So this is the desire of a true devotee. We want to see and participate in the Lord's Leelas. So that we have my other verse to look at. The next verse says this thing. Verses 10:8-25. Shengyani strasi jala Dvijakanta kebya Krida parabati chalo Swasito nishedhum Grihyani kartum apiyatra natajdananyo Shikata aputurala manaso navastam. Translation: when Mother Jasoda and Rohini were unable to protect the babies from the calamities threatened by horned cows, by fire, by animals with claws and teeth, such as monkeys, dogs, and cats, and by thorns, swords, and other weapons on the ground, they were always in anxiety, and their household engagements were disturbed. At that time, they were fully equipoised in the transcendental ecstasy known as the distress of material affection, for this was aroused within their minds. Purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. All these pastimes of Krishna and the great enjoyment exhibited by the mothers are transcendental. Nothing about them is material. They are described in the Brahma Samhita as Ananda Chimaya Rasa. In the spiritual world, there is anxiety, there is crying, and there are other feelings similar to those of the material world. I'm going to read that again. I feel like I read it wrong. In the spiritual world, there is anxiety, there is crying, and there are other feelings similar to those of the material world. But because the reality of these feelings is in the transcendental world, of which this world is only an imitation, Mother Jasoda and Rohini enjoyed them transcendentally. So it says here, Krida Paravati Chalo. Atichalo. So Krishna and Balaram were extremely restless, Atichalo, because they're the little children. Just like nowadays, the child is restless and they say he has ADHD. And that way the doctors take money from the poor innocent parents who don't know anything. They give them drugs and take the money. They also, when I was 5 years old, they also told my mother that I had ADHD. My mom says he's 5 years old. So she wouldn't take the medicine. She's very skeptical since birth. Since my birth, she's very skeptical of the medical industry. So they told also he has ADHD. She says he's 5. He's supposed to be like this. So they're young children. I teach her though, so they're extremely restless in their play. So the first line is describing some of the sort of restlessness. Shringi. Shringi means, it says here with the cows. So some of the cows, they had horns. So very dangerous. Even now when we're in Braja, whenever they're horned, we always are very conscious about that. So even they don't mean to, but suddenly they may just, do like this and you'll get, poked with the horn. So Krishna and Balaram restless, they're playing by the horns of the cows, sometimes playing with fire, dumb streets, sometimes playing with the animals with the teeth, like dogs and monkeys, sometimes playing with swords or knives. So in this way, sometimes playing with the birds like peacocks. So they were playing with these creatures where they could easily be harmed. Why? Because they were extremely restless. So swasuto nishedhum. So swasuto means their own sons. Rohini and Jasoda, they wanted to stop their sons. Nishedhum, they wanted to put a stop to this danger. But in order to stop them, they had to stop their household work. So the mothers, they were not able to shekata, they were not able to do their household duties, because in order to stop their sons, they have to keep their sons near them. But if their sons were near them, then they were not able to perform their household duties. So in this way, because they were in anxiety about their children getting harmed, but they were also in anxiety not being able to do their household duties. Because one nice verse is quoted from our acharyas, everything in their house was dedicated to Krishna. So their house, their prana, their life air, their wealth, everything was dedicated to Krishna. So they were maintaining that house for Krishna's pleasure also. And so that was causing anxiety. If they can't do their service to the house also, that is causing anxiety. But if they're serving the different things required in their house, then Krishna and Balaram being restless going here and there, so they're in anxiety about this. So they try to stop Krishna and Balaram, they get anxiety. And they try to tend to the household duties, they get anxiety. On either side, there was only anxiety there. So here it says, Aptura lamanuso anavastam. So in this way, they obtained in the mind the anavastam. So anavastam means they became unsettled or in anxiety. But Prabhupada's translation is so nice. He says, at that time, they were fully equipoised. Because I think the word avastam means like equipoised. Anavastam is like unsettled. But at that time, they were fully equipoised in the transcendental ecstasy known as distress. They were equipoised in the transcendental ecstasy known as distress. Usually that's paradoxical. Can be equipoised and distressed in the same time, can you? But in the spiritual, you can. The meaning here is that these mothers, they have what's called as Vatsalya Rati, Vatsalya Bhav. And out of the ocean of that love for Krishna, Vatsalya Bhav, comes one particular wave. Just like there are many waves in the ocean. So there are many waves in the ocean of love. They're called as Sanchari Bhavas. And one such wave out of that ocean is anxiety. Anxiety, how Krishna will be protected, how Krishna will be nourished. Because Vatsalya Rati means having the quality that I am Palana Poshana. I am the protector and I'm the nourisher of God. So one of the ways, like, how will we protect this child? How will we nourish this child? And so they became fixed in that meditation. So this anxiety is greater than the samadhi of the yogis. Our Acharya is making this point. So usually in the material world, we say like this also in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, Nasti bhuder ayuktasha nacha yuktasha bhavana, nacha bhavayata shanta shantasha kutasukha. So this verse is telling that for those who are undisciplined, ayuktasha, then they cannot have enlightened intelligence, without which they cannot have bhavana, meditation on God. And without meditation on God, there is no peace. And without peace, there is no happiness. So in this verse, happiness is equated to a tranquil state of mind, the peace. So therefore the yogis, they try to stop all the thoughts in their mind, yoga chitta vritti nirodha, so they can have peace and stand in the nature of the self by which they can experience happiness. But here it's superior to the samadhi of Jasoda, superior to the samadhi of the yogis is the anxiety of Rohini and Jasoda. This is superior. It is filled with transcendental anxiety, which is ecstatic, because it is all fixed on Krishna only. So the devotees, we're not actually after peaceful life. We want to be disturbed. But not the disturbance of the material world. That disturbance we are already quite familiar with. There's another categorically different disturbance. Disturbance that comes from trying to please Krishna and satisfy him. And to, in this case, to protect him and to nourish him. So this anxiety is the source of our liberation from the material world. There's a song by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, as is the last song in Sharanagati in the section on Atmanivedana. And he says he prays that the Lord will always privilege him with the distress of his service, because he says the distress will destroy the ignorance born of association with the material world. So this sort of distress is welcomed in Krishna consciousness, it seems. This is the real equanimity of the devotee. He's not in distress about material raga and dvesha, but for pleasing Krishna, all matters of distress is a welcomed ecstasy. So this is told here. So we'll stop here, and I always like to leave some time for questions or comments. Looks like in the chat box, Angelica is keeping nice notes. She's taking notes. Okay, so anyone wants to say anything? I could have, of course, continued. But...
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Can you repeat why the word equipoise is used to describe their? I know that their distress is a form of ecstasy, but maybe that's the answer. That why this word equipoise is used to describe their distress.
I don't know. We would have to ask Srila Prabhupada why you use this particular word in this context.
Oh, I thought you gave explanation.
My suggestion is that normally the word equipoise is used in relationship to the material world. So we're usually moved by the dualities of nature. So the way yoga is defined, sama siddhyo asiddhyo, what is that? Samatam yoga uchite, samabhutva. Yeah, samatam yoga uchite. So here, equanimity of mind is described as or defined as, yoga is defined as equanimity of mind in the face of dualities like success and failure. So when dealing with material dualities, the devotee is samatvam. You don't see any difference there. Like Narayana Parasarvena Kustashana Bipiti Swargana Apavarganadike Shu Api Tulya Artha Darshana. So in heaven, hell, liberation, the devotee sees all with equal eye. They only see seva. They don't see these various conditions which are created by God, like heaven, hell, liberation. They see what is seva that has to be done. So now where they see with equal eye only. Oh, seva can be done in hell also, seva can be done in heaven also. And only looking at that part, they don't see it. Maybe the other part. They're asleep to the other part. Yanisha Sarvabhutanam Tasham Jagharti Sanyami. Tasham Jagati Bhutani Sanisha Pashatumani. What is night for common man is a time of awakening. So what does a common man asleep to? Seva. He doesn't want to serve. He would rather rule in hell than serve in heaven, as the saying goes. And he doesn't rule it, he doesn't get either. Neither he's ruling in hell, neither he's serving in heaven, he's just suffering. So they're asleep to seva, but the devotee is awake to that. So that is their equanimity when it comes to the material world. So, as far as material happiness and distress is concerned, equanimity. So they're situated the devotee is situated in equanimity in terms of his relation with the material world. But that equanimity is informed by the ecstasy of distress of service to Krishna. That was my suggestion. He's feeling the distress of serving Krishna. So there's no question of having perception of the happiness and distress of material dualities. That perception is only possible when you situate in false ego. When you situate in false ego, then you think in terms of raga and dvesha, right? Avidya, raga, what is that? Avidya, asmita, raga, dvesha, abhinivesha. These are the 5 kleshas of the. So raga and dvesha is fixed in false ego. So you can only have perception of that if you're fixed in false ego, but they don't have any false ego. They only have the ego of being Krishna's servant. So in the relationship to the material world, they're equipoised. And that equanimity of mind is informed by the distress of serving Krishna. So that distress blocks out everything else. Just like here in the material world, when you're in the anxiety, you don't really perceive other things. Even if you're eating some very nice preparation, if your mind is in anxiety, you don't taste the food. It doesn't taste like anything because your mind, in order for you to have sensual experience, your mind has to be focused on that. So your tongue can taste it, but the mind has to also focus on that for you to get the full information of that sensual experience. But if your mind is in anxiety, so your sense may contact the object, but the mind is elsewhere, so you don't get the experience of that. So now they're in anxiety for Krishna Seva. So what is the distress of duality? They're equipoised to that. So this is, my suggestion. Otherwise, we have to just ask you the Prabhupada what he meant by translating like this. They were fully equipoised in the transcendental ecstasy known as distress of material affection. So we have to ask him, but this is my suggestion. Okay, I think Adi Purusha wants to say something here. There might be some other.
Yeah, that was beautiful. Thank you.
Okay.
We're praying to say what Krishna. We're praying to say what Krishna might want to say.
I'm gonna have to mute my thing so that it doesn't do that. Okay.
Yeah, we want to say what Krishna wants to say. That's our prayer. Such a superb class. We can only reflect. But we always ask any reflections, anything you heard that stuck with you. And what jumped out to me today was that comment you've made in 6 or 7 different ways about how Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is praying for the distress that comes from devotional service. And sometimes we definitely have challenges and distress in our service. And the tendency might say, well, that's it. I'm not going to do that anymore. Whereas a devotee is thinking, all right, this is actually, if it's pleasing to Krishna, even if it's painful for me, let me stay fixed on this. And that's an interesting way to be equipoised. Matra sparsha tu counting, the happiness and distress come and go. And what tolerate them, we tolerate without being disturbed. And what's not being disturbed, as you so beautifully pointed out, is what's not disturbed is our service. Therefore, we have Guru. Therefore, Guru gives prescribed duty. Arjuna went on the battlefield, arrows are coming, elephant is trying to stample him. He doesn't give up the fight, even though there's adversity. He's actually relishing because he's thinking, well, it may be painful for me, but I hope this pleases Krishna.
Very hard to understand.
It's against logic.
Yes, it is against logic.
One other thing about the childhood pastimes, I was down in Delaware. We met this Bart Gajar, is an old elderly Indian man who works for DuPont. And I went in his house, and he had on the video a little Indian toddler, just barely able to walk, dressed like Krishna, scampering around with a bare backside, and he was going, look at Krishna, look at Krishna. And I was thinking, what? I don't have that, that he was so delighted. And we were talking yesterday here about how we're in the East Village, most people, and a large percent of the people are not married, even fewer have children. 40% of the children are aborted, killed by their mothers before they're born. And so we don't have, of all the people in the room here, no one could say in the last 24 hours or the last week that I've actually taken a child into my arms. So we extrapolate the delight that parents have dealing with their little children, and how wonderful it would be how Krishna appears as a child and gives us that quality of loving care. But for us, it's practically, I have no idea about loving Krishna. I'm just trying to figure out how to please Prabhupada. I can't even, this is stuff, it's so far beyond what level of appreciation I can even imagine. I'm saying too much. Go on, somebody else has something to say. Well, glories to Prabhupada.
Okay, anyone else wants to say anything?
Angel, you have something?
No. Looks like
Hare Krishna, we can't hear you, Prabhu.
I said if anyone else wants to say anything or make some comment.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, please.
Let me lower my hand. Okay. There was something mentioned in the chat that I'd like to ask you to explain to me.
Okay.
Please. The disturbance originating in wanting to please the Lord is our liberation. It is separated from the aversion and attraction we experience in relation to the material world. The anxieties of devotional service are very welcome on the path of Krishna consciousness.
Yes. What do you need to be explained?
No. That wasn't the one. I apologize.
Okay.
Okay, devotee. Devotee equals engages their senses to attain sadhya, as spoken in Damodarasa. I'm sorry, I'm not pronouncing.
Okay, I'll read it. Devotee equals engages their senses to attain sadhya, as spoken in Damodarashtakam, attaining the darshan of Gopal Krishna. The goal of sadhana is to attain bhava, and every devotee needs to identify which is the direction they want to move into as a North Star of the sadhana. Okay, so what is the question? You want me to explain that?
Yeah.
Yeah, the word sadhana means like the means, and sadhya means the attainment, the goal of the sadhana. So our goal, our sadhana is called Bhakti Yoga, and our goal is also called Bhakti Yoga. So sadhana is like unripe fruit, and sadhya is like ripe fruit, because they're the same bhakti, but one is unripe and then one is ripe, like unripe mango and then juicy mango. So sadhana is unripe mango. Sadhya is the ripe mango. It has all the sweetness inside and nice chewiness and all that. So I was saying that when we do our practice, we have to identify what is our purpose. So many devotees may have different purpose. Some devotees want to get married. Some devotees want to enjoy this, that, and the other. Some devotees just want liberation. They want salvation. They bring their mentality from their previous religious orientation to bhakti. So here we say the goal of bhakti is also bhakti. But there are different types of bhakti there. There's maternal bhakti, there's romantic bhakti, there's friendship bhakti, there's servitude bhakti. So that goal you have to identify for yourself why you're doing bhakti, sadhana. So you have to know what your sadhya is, and that is the North Star that will guide you. So now we are out of time. That's the best I can do. Sorry.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you.
Okay. Hari Om. Thanks a lot for tolerating me. And now we will have darshan here at Radha Mulidhar. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shema Bhavasan ki jai. Do Premanandi. Hari Hari Bolo.
Jai Jagannath Prabhu ki jai. Please show us darshan, Jai Jagannath. We're done tune out if you can. He did. All right. Adi Purusha Prabhu, you're in the temple room. No, he has to go. He has food distribution today. So that's it, dear friends. Thank you very much. It was a great class. Jai Jagannath is very qualified. Good seeing FBI Rich. Good seeing Betty and her phone. Rameshwar Prabhu, good seeing you. Will, Yogeshwari, Suzanne, Dana Kelly. Yes, Will, Hare Krishna. Will is real. He exists. Akiko Chan, Krishna Daya Prabhu. Angelika, Pink Yogi, Anna, Arjuna Prabhu, we bound down to you again and again. Gail, Amish, Isabel, Spirit Soul, Venetia, Cindy Lunsford, Puji Chaturvedi. Thank you so much, dear friends. We love you all. Haribol, have a wonderful day. It's Friday. It's Friday. Happy Friday, everybody. Another day in Lord Chaitanya's movement. Hare Krishna. Adi Purusha Prabhu's lotus cargo shorts.